Great, thank you, Jasmine. And please remember to start with the recording. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webcast. As Jasmine mentioned, I'm Katie Hatcher. I'm with EPA's Energy Star program, and I'm going to be presenting today as well. But before I do so, I'm going to introduce our speakers that we have with us today. I have a longtime colleague, Tracy Enger, from EPA's Indoor Environments Division, as well as Tyler Brooks from Des Moines Public Schools and John Lord from Fairfax County Public Schools. Both organizations are Energy Star Partner of the Year Sustained Excellence winners, and I'm really glad that they can join us today to talk about their expertise with this topic of integrating energy efficiency and indoor air quality management. Before we get started to hear their success stories and the wonderful information from Tracy, I'd like to share some thoughts. And one is that I'm very excited after working for 26 plus years in the field of energy efficiency and helping schools advance energy efficiency and working alongside my colleagues in the Indoor Environments Division, including Tracy, to integrate indoor air quality into how we deliver our EPA programs. I'm excited that the day has come where indoor environmental quality is getting a lot more attention. Obviously, it's come to be that case due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, that has led to these relief resources from the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund that can be used to improve schools in the area of mechanical and non-mechanical heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, filtration, purification, and more. And so I would encourage all of you that are attending this webcast today to read through this FAQ. There's a link to it in the presentation deck that will be sent around after the webcast, to read through the Department of Education's information about how these resources can be used for your improvements to help integrate energy efficiency and indoor air quality. Before I turn it over to Tracy, I just want to share a few thoughts about the Energy Star program. We have a host of tools and resources that can help you advance energy efficiency in your schools, and these resources, used in combination with the resources that Tracy is going to share with you, can help you integrate energy efficiency and indoor air quality. Of course, our guest speakers are going to show their active examples from their districts of how they've been doing this. One of our core tools, as you likely know, is Portfolio Manager. It's likely you're on this webcast today because you are using Portfolio Manager to track at least energy use in schools. And you also might be working within your own school district or some of your client school districts to apply for Energy Star certification. Since the focus of our presentation today is integrating energy efficiency and indoor air quality, what I'd like to mention to you is as you manage your energy use, you can also manage your indoor air quality in your schools, and then combine that information on an ongoing basis to then help earn Energy Star certification in your schools. And so the theme of today's webcast is really continuous energy management and continuous indoor air quality management, and trying to move or change the scenario from just managing indoor environmental quality at one point in time in your schools, possibly in one location or one part of the school, to ongoing measurement and management of the indoor air quality of the property, and combining that with the energy use information. And then if the school ends up being eligible, you could certify it as Energy Star, or you could simply be happy that you're likely meeting the ASHRAE standards that would allow you to be eligible for Energy Star certification. So again, the theme is to manage energy use and indoor air quality together, and hopefully you'll be able to use some ESSER resources to do some of these improvements. So I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague Tracy from the Indoor Environments Division.
Great. Thanks so much, Katie. And you know, everyone, it's such a pleasure to be talking with you, especially as we talk about how we can successfully merge indoor air quality and energy efficiency, which is something that has been, as Katie said, near and dear to our hearts and central to our work over the past couple of decades. Both Katie and myself have spent our entire careers trying to achieve efficient, clean, healthy learning environments where students and staff can thrive. And so it's really a joy to be here with all of you today on this topic. And of course, you know, this topic has been central to the work that we have done in the Indoor Environments Division, you know, primarily because, you know, of the impact that it has across the board on outcomes in schools. And of course, now during the pandemic, indoor air quality and ventilation and HVAC and energy use have really risen to the top of everyone's priority list. We are, you know, our dance card is full, whereas we, you know, in indoor air quality, you know, we've been a wallflower for a while. And so it's exciting to be on the, you know, to be at the big dance right now. But there are lots of reasons for schools to be paying attention to indoor air quality before COVID, and those issues are still going to be with us after COVID. And I recognize that with this group especially, I'm doing some preaching to the choir, but I want you to have these slides and to have this language and this narrative so that you can use it to educate the unwashed masses, right? Help to bring people into where we are in our understanding of indoor air quality and energy efficiency and the importance of doing those things together. Which is why, of course, we in Indoor Environments Division initially designed the Indoor Air Quality Tools for Schools kit. It was really designed to help schools acquire all of the skills that they needed to, you know, to identify, address, and really prevent environmental health issues that can negatively impact teaching and learning by implementing a comprehensive indoor air quality management program. You know, you would have schools who are, everybody's doing indoor air quality, right? Whether they recognize it or not, they're doing things that have an impact on indoor air quality. We want people to be able to do it with more intention and comprehensively. And as Katie mentioned, but you know, before, this is such an amazing moment that we're in right now with the Department of Education and the APR funds that are out there. And when you go, and please, as she said, do go look at the frequently asked questions document that gives some specificity around how school districts can be using these funds to improve indoor air quality and energy efficiency. And you will see that these materials, the IAQ Tools for Schools materials, are noted specifically in that guidance. And we were very, very pleased to see that, so that schools are not just hearing what to do, but or you know, what they should do, but they can see how to do it, because that is what our kit has always been about, including the framework for efficient school IAQ management, which provides our 6 key drivers for success. This is how, if the kit tells you what to do, the framework helps tell you how to do it, and to better understand the language that schools are often using to improve indoor air quality, so that they can really talk to one another and build a network in that way. So it's sort of like our Rosetta Stone for indoor air quality. In addition to that, we also have the framework that works with the kit, and it offers 7 technical solutions. So these are really the major IAQ issues that the kit and the framework can be used to address in order to achieve reliable, clean, efficient, healthy indoor environments in schools. And so when it comes to these 7 technical solutions, one of the things that we're always stressing is the independent nature of these solutions. They work in tandem with one another. And so that especially becomes pertinent with energy management solutions as one of the technical solutions, because one of the things that we are trying to do is debunk this false dichotomy that seems to exist between energy efficiency and creating good indoor air quality. They are not separate entities. They intricately tied together. And so when you look at the strategies that we stress under the integrated energy management solutions, that's what you see. That these strategies demonstrate really that energy efficiency and indoor quality are not separate things. They are really two sides of the same coin. And that coin is creating healthy indoor school environments. Because here's what we know also. I think everyone's really aware that one of the primary, these are the primary reasons that we talk about how to protect indoor air quality during energy upgrades, because it has the ability, in doing that, you have the ability to protect student and staff health, to improve academic performance, and we've got the data on this, right? As well as enhancing the physical environment. And when you put all of those things together, you also have the potential to benefit and realize cost savings as well. But I have to say, as we were putting together and developing our energy efficiency guidance, one of the things that we recognized was really the importance of preventive maintenance. It just kept coming up again and again. And many of the folks who are on this call today, folks like Fred Ramilius from Upper Marion, Pennsylvania, many of you have been really tireless champions of preventive maintenance. And folks like Fred really pressed us on being able to develop guidance around preventive maintenance. And so you're going to hear about that too, because all of these things, energy efficiency and our energy savings plus health, really the guidance became our model and our muse for designing broader indoor air quality preventive maintenance guidance to help schools really do what it is we're after, which is to have school personnel take a proactive rather than a reactive approach to indoor air quality and energy efficiency issues using our resources. And you're going to hear a lot of that from our school district speakers following my presentation as well. So, it became very clear to us the preventive maintenance has a tremendous range of benefits, and our focus is really on that dynamic interconnection of IAQ, preventive maintenance, and energy efficiency, and how we manage the relationship between these three areas to produce healthy, reliable, and efficient buildings. So reliable, healthy buildings, efficient buildings is all possible if we recognize that interdependence. And so that's what we were thinking about as we were developing all of these pieces of guidance to work in tandem with one another. So our energy savings plus health guidance came out as in partnership with the Energy STAR program, recognizing that in addition to our Tools for Schools kit, we really wanted to delve deeply into how schools can manage their energy retrofits, having guidance for repairs and renovation that really focus on protecting and improving indoor air quality while maximizing energy efficiency and hopefully minimizing costs. And so, one of the things that we talk about, with IAQ and energy efficiency is that, is how do we provide the resources to help people operationalize the things that we're asking them to do. And that's where energy savings plus health comes in, is really putting these recommendations into action. And, so to help school districts be able to do that, we really, this guidance breaks it down into really manageable steps as folks are going through the process. And so we provide examples of how sort of the typical school energy efficiency and building upgrade projects and point out some of the potential IAQ health risks and opportunities that can be encouraged while you're executing some of these upgrades. And this is really so pertinent right now as people are focusing on how they approach their indoor air quality and how they're dealing with increasing ventilation and dealing with filtration. All these different issues are so important right now. And so there's a way this is a plan for folks to be able to use to do that, really working as a team and bringing together energy managers, you have facility managers, IAQ coordinators, risk managers, getting everyone at the table using this guidance so they can better understand the interrelationships between energy efficiency and IAQ goals, and actually setting those goals together, right? So we've talked about indoor air quality tools for schools. We've talked about energy savings plus health. Like I said, those things, we lifted the approaches from the Tools for Schools kit and from our Energy Savings Plus Health and we lifted them directly to help us design our preventive maintenance guidance and really kind of harnessing that power of preventive maintenance. And so in that guidance, you will find a robust collection of online resources that include things like, a detailed guidance document, customizable IAQ preventive maintenance checklist generator, which you will see is, really our muse was the Energy Savings Plus Health checklist generator. But for this, energy efficiency becomes one of several of all of the technical solutions all put together in a checklist generator to help school districts address all of those issues in a proactive way. So, like I said, we have never met a checklist we didn't love in the indoor environment division, but for good reason. Checklists are amazingly useful, and what we find is the main value of them is that they provide, what I call routine rigor. So many of the things that we think are really complex and complicated, and then some things that we think are so easy we don't have to think about them, we miss them, right? And they don't happen unless there's a checklist that people are following with, with discipline and with rigor. So the content of the IAQ Tools for Schools Preventive Maintenance Checklist is based on all of the collective wisdom from Energy Savings Plus Health, as well as all of our other Tools for Schools products. And so checklists operate on this really easy Excel platform that you can customize. You can do a range of effort. You can focus on one of the technical solutions at a time or combine them the way that you want to. So when you go in and look at energy efficiency, you can combine it with HVAC and mold and moisture and see what comes up in terms of a customizable spreadsheet for you at the time that you're entering in, considering what kind of resources you have and what is taking the most priority in your plan at that time. So as you see here, again, it is just a really great opportunity to merge all of the other areas of indoor air quality and energy efficiency into one place. And you will find everything that is pertinent from those other pieces of resources right there. So when it comes to being able to track and measure your progress and your outcomes, folding in the energy management portfolio manager into those other resources, and you just have, sort of the soup to nuts of what you need to be able to track and to record and to report out on your successes, as well as to design and tailor your program too. So, tracking your progress, Katie is always saying you can't manage what you don't measure, right? And so it really is important to use all of the that's why you'll see so many tracking tools in Energy Savings Plus Health, as well as the preventive maintenance materials, along with Portfolio Manager, merging them together so that you have a complete story of your program and what you're doing. And that is primarily because also, the last thing I want to talk to you about here is how we address and evaluate and articulate the benefits of a holistic approach to IAQ and energy efficiency. So we know that under the right circumstances, even when we have big challenges like extreme weather or a pandemic, there are still considerable returns on investment to be realized both in savings and in cost avoidance. So what you see here, is an example that there is more to the kind of cost-benefit scenario than just a simple ROI equation. And sometimes we really do need to anticipate perhaps short-term higher costs to reap long-term benefits. People get stuck on this idea of IAQ and energy efficiency being these competing factors as Faustian choice, but I would submit to you that there's something different going on here. I would submit to you that what we really need to do is shift that thinking about indoor air quality and energy efficiency from a focus on simply cost and savings to a focus on value, because the bottom line is we will invest more in the things that we value. And so that is why we also have resources available to you to help you develop a value proposition, your focused pitch that you can make the case for combining indoor air quality and energy efficiency and what that return is going to be. And we have all of the tools to help you do that, including the cash flow opportunity calculator, Energy Star, but also some specific materials that will help you design that pitch and use that language. And what you see here are actual value propositions from school districts across the country. And what you'll see here is, yes, in some cases there is a focus on cost savings, but it should also align with the goals and the mission of your program, of your school district, and of your community. And so what you see here is folks focusing not just on cost, but on how they can champion for their staff, how they can champion for health of students and staff through their program. That is a value that is embedded in every school district. And so, you know, the value proposition is about our values and tapping into that. So I would implore you to definitely develop your value proposition, use it in talking to your decision makers, and share it, you know, and get them excited about this work and really educate folks about the opportunities that exist at this intersection of energy efficiency and indoor air quality. So I know I've covered a lot of ground today, but you can go even deeper into a lot of things that I touched on using our professional training webinar series. With our next speaker, you're going to hear Tyler Poles, and Des Moines is featured in one of our preventive maintenance webinars there. But we have a plethora of materials there, including our recently launched series in 2020 that focuses on virus mitigation. And so please avail yourself of those resources, as well as all of our other resources across the board. And please, with any questions or any support that I can provide, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. So we talked a whole lot about kind of what the resources are and the materials that are available to you, but all that really matters is how we put them together and we actually put them into use. And so I'm excited to turn over the floor to Tyler Poles and to John so that they can start to show you what it looks like when these things are in action. So thank you for your attention today, and Tyler, looking forward to hearing from you now.
Thanks, Tracy. I'm Tyler Poles, and I'm happy to be on today to kind of talk about what we've done at Des Moines Public Schools and our experience integrating energy efficiency and indoor air quality and some of the successes that we've had over the years. Before I get started too far, I'd like to take a little bit of time to talk about our school district, our relationship with Energy Star. This slide shows our mission as a district. I included it because sometimes we get so caught up in the what that we forget about the why. As a school district, we have to focus on the students that come to our buildings to develop and learn every day. Des Moines is the capital city of Iowa, and our school district covers approximately 80 square miles. We're the largest school district within the state and maintain more than 6 million square feet on our roof. The average age of our buildings is over 69 years old. However, we have made significant mechanical improvements throughout all of our buildings over the last 20 years. Our district educates over 31,000 students and employs over 4,800 staff. Beginning in 1999, we started renovating our dated facilities. One of the main focuses was renovating HVAC improvements, and this has cost us over $475 million we've put into our facilities. These renovation costs include all aspects of the work, including equipment, finishes, design, etc. And like I said, we've been through every facility, and that allows us to start this cycle over again. In order to do this, we maintain a 5-year plan to update outdated equipment and make important renovations throughout our facilities. These capital improvements have definitely changed our preventive maintenance program throughout the years. DMPS has partnered with Energy Star since 2008 when we certified our first facility. Using Energy Star tools and resources has been invaluable for us as we focused on energy efficiency and saving taxpayer dollars. This graph here shows our elementary schools in comparison with national median values from Energy Star. Yellow represents DMPS weather normalized source energy use intensity, whereas blue is the median source EUI. The average Energy Star score for our elementary schools is currently 79. This graph here is our middle schools in comparison with national median values. Again, the yellow is DMPS, weather normalized source EUI, and blue is the national median. The average Energy Star score for our middle schools is also 79. And this graph here is our high schools. So our current Energy Star score throughout high schools is 75. DMPS has made huge strides when it comes to energy efficiency by having a solid approach. One of our most beneficial items we've done is benchmarked all of our facilities within Energy Star. It provides a good starting point to know how our buildings stack up to comparable buildings throughout the country. And as noted earlier, we've done extensive renovations, and we've got 40 geothermal buildings that utilize the heat from the earth to very efficiently heat and cool our buildings. It's important to realize that the facilities department can't reduce electrical usage alone. Communication with our building occupants has proven to be a very valuable tool in shifting people's attitudes towards energy conservation. And making energy savings a competition of sorts has driven people to change their behaviors and really helped our buildings be better performers than their peers. Kind of that competition is important, we've found. And then as a district, we've converted all lighting to LED. It's greatly reduced our electrical usage throughout our portfolio. Upgrading equipment and using new technologies is great, but it's very important to maintain working equipment. We found retro commissioning to be that great tool to help make that happen. Set points and run times seem to get changed throughout the year, and it's always a good idea to revisit those settings and make sure that everything's operating the way that they're intended. Energy efficiency and indoor air quality work together in a delicate balancing act. When we shut off equipment, we save energy, but IAQ has the potential to suffer. Determining appropriate equipment run times is essential to maintaining a healthy and efficient learning environment. How is this done? Well, we do it with a coordination of our building automation system and air monitoring sensors. Our building automation system is very robust and helps us manage our equipment efficiently. It allows us to schedule our occupied times, which helps prevent unnecessary equipment from running. And programming within the VAS staggers the startup of equipment to minimize our peak demand during the winter months. We don't have everything starting up at once. We also use demand-based ventilation to control the amount of outdoor air that's introduced to our spaces. This uses CO2 sensors placed within building spaces and the HVAC units in order to determine which spaces need additional ventilation. We've also experienced with people counters in large conference rooms and cafeteria type spaces. These work by counting the number of people through a doorway and increasing or decreasing the ventilation rate depending on the number of people. These seem to work well, but access to that area can be controlled through 1 or 2 doorways. Another portion of IAQ and safety is the use of carbon monoxide sensors that we have wherever combustion appliances are present. These sensors alert to our 24/7 monitored security desk so that any issues can be dealt with extremely quickly. We also have humidity sensors and to trend and monitor spaces where history has proven to us that we can have issues, especially during the hot summer months where we have limited occupancy. We use sensors throughout the district to run our systems efficiently. Temperature and CO2 seem to be the most important, of course. Here's a trend graph of a classroom CO2 sensor at one of our elementary schools that was taken. It's a snippet out of our building automation system. This sensor controls the VAV box to change the damper position and provide the correct amount of fresh air. This trend here goes back 8 days. From the information, we're able to tell when this room was occupied and can see that the highest CO2 concentrations in the classroom got to around 800 parts per million. The thing with sensors is they require calibration and replacement. A bad sensor doesn't provide good information and can't accurately tell the damper where it should be. It becomes a very important PM task for our, like preventive maintenance task for our staff to maintain all these sensors. Sensors and building controls are great to assist with the management of our buildings, but the most important aspect is definitely our people. While alarms are quickly recognized, building staff are typically the first to know of the problem. They have the ability to inform our facility staff of unscheduled changes or broken equipment. If the air conditioning isn't working in the middle of August, we're most likely going to hear about it. Monthly newsletters are sent out from our operations team. This communication, we call it the Special Ops newsletter, sent to building principals to communicate important items district-wide. And we have an energy report card that's sent out from facilities to show energy use per building and important facility updates. On the right here is a snippet of the energy report card that we use to communicate with our building staff. We use walkthroughs and assessments as a critical piece for our IAQ management plan. We use building walkthroughs to proactively identify moisture issues before they become large issues. There are many tools and checklists available, much like what Tracy was describing earlier, to assist with these walkthroughs. We find it really important to go out and actually look at how the building systems are working rather than just taking a look at the building automation system. It's amazing some of the things we've seen by just walking through the buildings. You know, one of the best ones I've seen is had a teacher unknowingly put a contraband refrigerator in front of a thermostat, made the space really uncomfortable. The heat from the refrigerator made her really uncomfortable during the winter because all the heat kind of cooled the thermostat. IAQ management involves a lot of aspects and creates a ton of data. This slide provides an example of some of the spreadsheets we've used and will continue to use to track and find our data easily. The radon sample log includes every test that's been collected throughout the district. To date, over 4,500 radon tests have been done. In the middle here is the IAQ parameter log. We record IAQ information, which we physically go out and collect in the field. As I showed earlier, our building automation system is also collecting and trending this data, which we can find and assess. But we use the IAQ log to verify the automation system information as well as check and investigate issues within facilities. We also included our lead and drinking water log, where we also record all testing data. And once the data is entered into these logs, we have databases set up that provide really clear reports that can be distributed to interested parties throughout the district or the community. And then In response to the pandemic, just like the rest of the world, DMVS faced many challenges in dealing with this. Seemed immediate in March 2020, everything just stopped. Students and staff left buildings, and the DMPS facilities department was tasked with keeping the buildings operating and determine how to safely bring students and staff back. Following guidance from federal and state leaders, we enacted a plan that allowed for the safe occupancy of our buildings. Once students and staff were gone, and with the mild spring temperatures, we took advantage and actually just shut HVAC systems off wherever possible. And then at our school district, operations and facilities staff really didn't take an extended amount of time off. We used that time as an opportunity to go in and repair buildings and begin projects that were scheduled to be completed during the summer months. And one of the biggest challenges was determining when to turn those systems back on. We used our sensors and measurements that we collected, and once we rolled into the summer months, it became necessary to run our buildings to reduce the humidity levels throughout. And as the 2020-2021 school year neared, we put a lot of safety measures in place to try and reduce the spread of COVID-19, additional cleaning measures throughout the downtime when they weren't here, deep cleaning, and strategically placing desks and furniture to allow for social distancing. For our district, we started the last school year off with online learning. To prepare for students' return, we chose to operate our buildings with longer run times and bring in the most amount of outdoor air possible. Quite frankly, the scale kind of tipped towards IAQ to provide the safest possible learning environment. We really focused on equipment operation and maintenance, and due to equipment limitations that we have, we didn't upgrade all of our filters to MERV 13. However, we did go through our entire district and make sure that all air filters fit correctly and were replaced prior to building staff coming back. We focused on preventive maintenance activities throughout all of our air handlers to make sure that everything was operating correctly. And we did everything we could with the resources we had to make sure that we were bringing in as much outdoor air as possible to our buildings. Another item we focused on was disabling drinking fountains and just allowing the bottle fillers to be used. Once students came back, a hybrid model was put in place to reduce student numbers per day. Our operations staff set up classrooms to maximize the distance between students and staff. In order to assist with social distancing, we served breakfast and lunch within classrooms, isolation rooms were identified to quarantine students with any symptoms, and then we had additional filtration units in the nurse's office and the isolation rooms. And as we prepare to bring students back into our buildings next week, many items remain the same with the uptick in cases we are experiencing locally. Many of the same measures put in place for the previous school year remain. And we haven't turned our buildings back to kind of our normal operations. Throughout this pandemic, we've definitely learned that staff and students are very resilient. Everyone seems to want to do the right thing, and with collaboration and communication, it's been proven that we can achieve these great things. And as mentioned earlier, the government's provided an opportunity with ESSER funds for us to improve our facilities. In addition to our normal construction cycle, we are making a push with our design teams to focus on indoor air quality. Product selection has become very important to make sure the equipment can provide the proper amount of fresh, clean air. And we're increasing the amount of humidity control we have within buildings. This will hopefully eliminate IAQ issues that happen during the summer months for us. We're also replacing drinking fountains with new bottle fillers that have an integrated filter. There are a ton of moving parts with using this ESSER funding, and we're working through the process to make improvements in as many buildings as possible. In conclusion, just remember that energy efficiency and indoor air quality are a complex balancing act and depend on your sensors and people to make correct decisions. It's important to measure and record the information so that you have the data to make correct decisions. And don't forget there are opportunities coming out of this terrible pandemic we've all been going through. Thanks for the time, and now I'm going to turn it over to John.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is John Lord, and I'm with Fairfax County Public Schools in Virginia. For those of you who do not know our school division, we're right outside of Washington, D.C. We have 27 million square feet of buildings, 220 buildings, about 180,000 students. And the way I have set up my presentation is I have basically imagined the audience as people who are really just thinking about getting into this for the first time. And so you want to hear, well, what have people who have had some success with it in the past done? And so that's the angle I brought to it. It was referred to earlier as the value proposition. Tracy said, find your value proposition. Well, everybody uses energy, and energy management's real easy to find. I mean, whether you like saving money, or whether you like reducing your environmental impact, or whether you like a little bit of both, not having energy waste is super easy for people to agree on. My contention would be that it's also super easy for people to agree on the fact that they desire good health and that they would like to have healthy environments. Now, there's obviously disagreement with individuals regarding what does that mean and how do you accomplish it, but I don't think anyone would argue that they want to have an unhealthy environment or to expose themselves or their loved ones to risks that could be mitigated. It just seems like a pretty no-brainer kind of a thing. A little bit about our school division and where we've come from, just so you might believe that it's worth considering what we're saying. We do believe in having third parties look at what we're doing. We think we do a pretty good job, but we often learn from others. We learned so much from the Energy Star program, and we've learned from our regional peers in the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. And I won't read the names off of these, but each of these things have got some recommendations, they've got some oversight, and there's something that the school system has tried to do, because our value proposition, I think, is just we really believe we are a public service entity, and we serve the public good. And so therefore, if it's good for you, and I know that we're not trying to be like the nanny state necessarily, but if you want to have a healthy environment, well, that means you're a normal human being, and we'd like to provide that for you. Okay. So Energy Star certification, when we planned this meeting, one of the discussions we had was, how does Energy Star certification help with IAQ? Because from the point of view of Energy Star, the portfolio manager, it's already been explained, as kind of the premier tool. And building certification is kind of one of the premier recognition programs. And so it does have some pieces built into it that are, if you're really truly starting out new and you don't have a lot of background in this area, and you know you're interested in energy management, but you're not really sure you're completely excited about indoor air quality, it's important to recognize that you really can't do the one well without doing the other. You may not think of yourself as an indoor air quality professional, but if you're going to manage energy, that you can't manage something when it's not doing the job it was intended to do. And so many of these energy consuming systems were intended to provide cooling or heating or ventilation or control humidity or reduce contaminants by filtering them out. And many of these things require people in the building to be involved. If you don't have the players, the people involved, then you're going to be very limited in your success. So I think that the Energy Star program, if you really are truly just starting out, it will force you I think Tracy also said, is sort of forced periodic review, forced rigorous review. And we didn't really talk about that topic when we were planning it, but it does. It requires forced rigorous review. It's worth looking at. And when you look at the basics, like are you even meeting your ventilation and thermal condition standards, if you can't answer that question, are you doing it now? Well, then you know what your next step has to be. Well, let's find out. And so when Fairfax County Public Schools was asked by the public to explain, how do we know that we've got our ventilation under control and that we're dealing with indoor air quality well and that we're providing as good of an environment as we can for our students and staff and our communities, we put together a report. And if I'm not mistaken, the organizers have already emailed a PDF document to all the participants. So that link where it says click here is active in that PDF. I checked it earlier. And you can go to the whole report. It's quite lengthy, and so I would invite you to read it and review it at your leisure. But some of the key points really are that we just made sure that everything worked. If you don't know if everything works or not, that's the first step. And no matter where you are on your trajectory of moving to combine energy management along with indoor air quality, you're going to have to know what you have, what you start with. And that's really important. And that's what the benchmarking tools that are provided by EPA provide to an end user. So one of the challenges that we in my area in Northern Virginia face, people tease about draining the swamp in DC, and they're talking figuratively, but a couple hundred years ago, literally, they had to drain the swamp to put this area in and make it developable, so you could build buildings on it and have the nation's capital and the surrounding suburban areas exist. So humidity is our biggest foe, the thing we struggle with and we are challenged the most by. And in this drawing, I indicate, that indoor air quality has got all different kinds of moisture management considerations. If you bring moisture into a building and you allow it to mix with organic material, you're going to find that you have biological growth that you don't want. And I'm avoiding the M word, but I'll just come out and say it. Mold is our enemy, and we fight it vigorously every summer. And you may find that you will have similar challenges, or you may have very different challenges, but it won't be easy. I will echo what Tyler said. It's complicated and it won't be easy, but it's really incredibly valuable. It's incredibly logical, and it is the right thing to do. And so the question you might ask yourself at the end of your thought process, which is where we talked about how the presentation should end, is how can it be done better? How can you really bring your indoor air quality to a higher level, from non-existent to reasonable, from reasonable to good, from good to great, wherever you are on the continuum? You're going to want to know, what do you have? How does it work? You're going to want to look at your barriers and understand them. And the bottom line is that the little drawing I have on the right-hand side, that's the EPA guidelines for energy management for the Energy Star program. But it may as well be the guidelines for making any program where you intend to be successful. And I think it applies perfectly to an IAQ program. And, Tracy referred to the Tools for Schools packet. We use the Tools for Schools packet. And we've always had that physical box that you can see in the picture in Tools for Schools, but now there's also a mobile app. We have not yet tried the mobile app, but perhaps the mobile app will be a way for us to go even further. You'll have to evaluate where are you. You'll have to determine what is your action plan, and you'll have to implement those things that make sense for you. For us, it was increasing filtration. It was looking at, when we have funding come in through this ESSER program, how can we build mechanical systems that are more resilient to outdoor air humidity, and how can we control that and cover all the different factors of indoor air quality. And so the basic thing you have to do if you're new to this, and I'm going to end it with this thought before we go to questions, is you have to make that commitment that you actually care. And I will tell you, I despite being a speaker here, and despite being very positive inclined towards this concept of blending energy management and IAQ, I was not an early adopter. I mean, I knew I was doing this stuff and I knew I was monitoring IAQ, but the concept of the merging, the blending, the additional workload, it didn't appeal to me to begin with, frankly. But as I realized it, it's not really additional workload, it's just more formally describing what we were doing already, and then figuring out how can we do it even better. And so I invite you all to consider making the commitment to not only managing energy, but managing IAQ. And you can do it, start wherever you are, and make incremental improvements, and that's all anyone can ask of you. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the Energy Star training member to be the presenter, and she'll talk us through questions.